again on another Healing Our Future. And I am going to be sharing space tonight with Gabe, another one of the first people that I connected with on this platform. So I'm overjoyed of all that we will be discussing. As always, I am asking people to sit with what are you going to do to emotionally regulate? Why? Because some of the things that we might be talking through might give you a feeling of unease, or you might have to sit with and sit through other uncomfortable emotions that may not be presenting on a normal day. And today we are asking you to get your knapsack of tools for doing that. Whether you have to step away, put us on mute, move your body, play some music, put up a beautiful picture that will bring you peace and joy. We are asking you to not forget about yourself in these moments of time that we talk about wellness, that we talk about equity, and that we talk about leadership, who we are begging to be socially, emotionally intelligent for the social and awareness of all people. Thank you so much. Be well. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello, can you hear
Okay,
me?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Okay, so I know we're just getting done with our days and just beginning this journey together. And I know you have a very busy night too. So
Yes.
I wanted to check in. I want to do a check in with you, and I want to do a check in with people in the audience. And the question that I'm going to ask you today is, what's one or two emotions that you are sitting with in this moment of time? What's one or two emotions that you are sitting with in this moment of time? I'll go first so you don't have to be on the spot, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to pick gratitude because I am super appreciative of you. I really am, especially being super flexible and just for being you, because we've had a long-standing relationship on this platform. So that's one. My second is joy, just having conversations and being in community and relationships brings me a lot of joy. And anytime we're in our chats or talking live, which we don't often do, it just makes me smile. So I want to share that with you. So appreciative, gratitude, joy are my two words for tonight. But how are you feeling?
I am okay. I'm feeling mine right now. One of them is excitement, and I expressed this yesterday to you. I was like, I am excited. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I could sleep. Uh, so always excited, number one, because first of all, I'm getting to have a conversation with you. We don't have
Mhm.
this very often, but you are someone who I truly admire, and again, we've had a long-standing friendship for a while. So anytime that I get the opportunity to have a conversation with you, that always stems excitement. That is number one. And number two,
Okay.
for me, and it kind of mirrors yours, is happiness. I feel
Mhm.
happy. Life right now is very good.
Okay.
So I feel that as every morning I get up, I wake up with a little bit more, like you said, joy. I will put it in
Mhm,
there. Um, but yes, for me, that is huge in how I am living my life right now. Things have been
mhm,
moving so quickly. A lot of great things are happening. So I wake up every morning again, just happy, like this is my life. It's great. you know,
mhm,
so those are two things that I feel like I've been living, breathing, and expressing all day
mhm.
long.
That's good.
So there you go.
Those are okay, thank you for sharing, and we'll ask the audience, are you asking yourself this on a daily basis? And I'm being very serious from the moment that you wake up of, "How am I feeling? What emotions am I experiencing, and how am I feeling?" And even when you're going to your job, "How am I feeling today?" And if you come home and you have a spouse or you have a child or you have yourself, asking yourself and asking the others that you share space with is a good idea to say, "How are you feeling?" Name 1 or 2 emotions that you're sitting with or sitting through because maybe conversations that you were gonna have with people, you would put on a pause if you heard from them that I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling anxious, then you could find out more and build a stronger relationship with them by saying, "Tell me more about that because I wanna hear more." And I always urged as leadership, people are coming to the table sometimes to make really big decisions and to put initiatives and systems into place. But if people that are also at the table aren't in the mind frame to be able to do that, then why are we pushing forward with the meeting at that time to make those decisions? Because the best decisions can't be made. But a lot of times leaders aren't even checking in with how everybody at the table is feeling and how could we build on those feelings. So go ahead and share out your feelings of how you are feeling today because your feelings matter. Okay. So I'm gonna get into it. And I was laughing. I was kind of chuckling. I said, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna coming on the show should not feel like you are in the hot seat. It should feel like a beautiful bath or shower, whatever you prefer, with warm water being drenched on your body and like a sea of wellness and peace." I said, "Hot seat does not embody what I'm talking
That's
about."
my fault. Sorry.
So, tell me more about oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in the hot seat because that's the exact opposite feeling that I wanted to induce in anybody.
Well, I always call it the hot seat simply because you're asking somebody questions, or when you're having a conversation. That's the only thing that why I reason that I call it that. So it's not so much that it's like, oh my gosh, get ready for all this pressure, or get ready for all this other stuff. You know, I've always been the other person on the other side getting to ask the questions. So when I am like on the other side, um, I enjoy it for two reasons. Okay. Number one, because I don't have to do anything.
Mhm,
That's for me the fun part about all of this. The pressure of handling a show is all on somebody else's shoulder today. So I just get to
mhm,
come and talk. Okay. That is yes, that is one reason. And then number two, I simply, enjoy the opportunity to have an open conversation with somebody, and not that this is a bad thing, but I don't always have to sit in that moment and actively listen to everything that somebody's saying. Okay. When you're sitting on, that's why I call it the hot seat. When you're sitting on the other side and you're the one asking the questions, you have to really actively listen to somebody, because you're there to not only hear what they have to share, but then if there are other moments that you want to dig into a little bit more, like if
mhm,
you're, especially when you're digging somebody about their health or mentally how they're feeling, you want to listen to, hear, and touch on keywords and those sort of things that allow you to open up a little bit more. But in terms of me not having to actually do that, but it just to get to talk, that's almost like a pure happy place for me. That's what I said.
mhm,
I feel happy and excited because um, I will have to put that hat back on. Literally, I have to put that back hat back on here in about 2 hours. But
mhm,
tonight, and just getting to do this is fun for me. So anytime now that somebody invites me on and I get to share, like just me, that is
mhm.
like pure joy.
Okay.
that to me, that's the best part about it all, is getting to share that. So,
And you know what I
another
love? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say there you go. That's all. I was gonna just say that.
Okay. What I love is I know you and bits and pieces, and there's some people that might know you better than I do or not as much, and this gives you an opportunity for people to even get to know you even better or at a different level or another corridor or matrix part of you has been opened by the questions that I'm going to ask and by what you choose to share then. So, what I'm going to talk a lot with you about is going to be focused on wellness. And I don't know if you saw the post or how many of the posts that you saw, but recently I
Mhm.
put out posts in regards to jobs. Dr. Nati Lopez more or less was saying if you die, your job is how long will it really mourn you? And everything is going to keep moving. And then I put something else out, basically telling people to sit with themselves on how are we going to sit here and celebrate people who are painfully living through silence and suffering at their jobs because you just are resilient and you keep going. And at the same time, your spirit, at the same time, your joy, at the same time, your happiness and your wellness is being taken in exchange for sitting there on a daily basis in a place that is no longer serving you or is no longer the place that you need to be. So, with talking about those two things, what do you feel resonated most with you in the moment, and then things that have happened and you've lived through in your life, whether right
Mm.
now or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that resonated with you from the post of please reconsider what we are saying and clapping for people for.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the whole reason I'm on this journey now is because I had that moment.
Mhm.
Without it, I'm not here. It was sitting down actually with myself, and uh, you know, it was a cold, dark room. I can remember it. It was a cold, dark room sitting there, um, just by myself. I could hear the sound of the fan blowing back behind over me. I mean, I had my head down in the cover, didn't have a clue like what I was supposed to be doing or feeling in that so bad. And my walls were so down. I was in a place where, had it been in 10 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier, it probably wouldn't have had the same impact. But it penetrated me, and it really, really reached down to the core of who I was at that moment in my soul. And as I watched with tears running down my eyes and realizing later on that what that was the feeling of hope. Um, that was that was a moment for me that I realized that I needed to do something else with my life, because had I at that moment perished, nothing about me would have been remembered. Nothing about me at that moment would have lasted except maybe my kids at that point. And not that that doesn't matter, but I knew that I wanted to make a greater impact in life. So that kind of started me down the path and the journey of learning how to build, share, and then amplify who I was mentally, spiritually, physically, in every possibility. So, um, that was hard for me, and it got to a point of where once I figured out that the way the way that was going to be for me, and this was totally from a sign from above. This wasn't me, that I was meant to do this was because when I sat down in front of the camera for the first time and was so scared, but yet knew that I had to challenge myself to do something literally different. Like, this pushed me to continue to go on. And, that was so memorable. And from that moment on, and once I had done the first one and just sat there for a little while and realized this was how I was going to start making my impact in this world. From that moment on, I knew this was it. This was everything. And I never, I never looked back. From that day on, I never looked back. And everything that was going to happen, and everything that has happened, and everything that continues to happen are all just parts of what I'm supposed to be experiencing in my life. And I don't look back on any of it with regret now. Like, I know that that's for me what I have to start continuing to do. And part of what you shared and what you were talking about is that, some people are sitting there quietly now, experiencing that same thing and wondering, like, what am I in this grand scheme of everything? What am I? Like, am I just a number? Am I just this? And it's why part of my journey is to help people learn how to build and share and amplify their voices so that they have the ability to say, no, you're not just that. You're so much more. If you would just open up your eyes and realize, like, there's a bigger world out there. Um, I equate it to this. It's like when I tell people when they realize it, it's like for the first time when they were watching film in black and white and then they saw everything in color for the first time. It is so vivid, it is so bright, it is so memorable that you'll never be able to go back to what that was before. And that's why I say, you got to have those moments. Like, I'm sorry, the bumps, the bruises, the scrapes, the hurts, you got to have all of it, or it doesn't, or that's the journey's not as meaningful. I think because then what that does is it gives you that perspective on life. That without it, you don't know what the other side of that coin is. So that's why I always say that is, you know, if you have been lucky enough, if you've been blessed enough to have found that out at such an early age, hats off to you. Because for a lot of us, it is still happening, and still people in their 40s, 50s still have not figured that out for themselves. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Okay, that totally answered my question. And my curiosity is what how many years ago was this? Was this
Uh,
recently?
so this was my journey, my personal thing started back in 2008.
Okay.
So but it still comes to a point of where I never forget it. I always remind myself of it. That, that feeling of, no, like I said, no matter what, once you've seen everything in color, you can never go back to that again. And even in moments of sadness and feeling vulnerable, I
Mhm.
can still go back and remember that and recall those moments and saying it lights it up back up again and say, okay, we're never going back to that place again. Never. We know better than that. And it's just sometimes sitting again, taking the moments to sit down with yourself and go, okay, where are we at? I always tell I always call them the R's, the R's that you sit down with. And they're like, what are the R's? These are the R's. Okay. You sit down, you reevaluate, right?
Mhm.
You reconnect, you reestablish, you recalibrate, and then you start moving forward again. Go back.
Mhm.
That's the great thing about life. We we don't realize it, but we're like a big pencil. We have an eraser. We can go back and just erase a few things and still continue to write on, my friends. It's not everything is not created permanently. So, that's I always sit down and think about those things in life. And again, I've found like who I am. I found out how I operate. I found out all of these things about me. And I will not allow myself to not continue to grow and become a better person every single day. And that's part of it. Even if there's days that if you feel stagnant, it's
Yep.
okay. That's just called life, my friend. Not every day is a win, not every day is a loss, but you still get to continue to move on and go forward. And that's the hard thing about for some people is that they don't actually the, it's this that's why I say the smaller things in life are pretty important. Like it's you know uh, I always I always go back to these moments because they always just bring me joy. There's days that I'm very fond of remembering about when my coffee tasted perfect that morning. That's a great thing. I mean, it doesn't happen every morning. It's just for whatever reason I had the right amount of mix of this and that, and everything was just on point, and those are enjoyable. Like, I always say it like this. I always take the mentality of like what kids sometimes do. Like, what is happiness for you? When a kid's sitting down coloring, sometimes it's finding the right color in the box to draw in whatever it is, and that's going to allow them just that purest moment of joy.
Mhm.
Um, and that's to me how I look at everything in life is looking for those little moments. A lot of those things put together really make a big difference down the line. But it's just remembering that though. It's like remembering that. I know that I've had my hard parts of my journey, and I am always grateful to think about everybody and everything that's come in my life and never ever forget what that was for or who that was or why they were there because all those things are all pieces of the puzzle for me. So I again I it's been I don't know how to say it except that it's been a pure blessing. It's been a pure joy. It's been everything to get to do this night in, night out, every single day. And if you cannot sit here and realize what that is and express just the smallest bit of gratitude for it all, you're missing the big picture. You're missing
Mhm.
it. It's a beautiful world that we live in if you just take the right moments and even the dark times. That's why I said I'm grateful for those. I'm grateful for those hard times because those help build me now. So that's why I said 2018. From that point on, that is where my timeline changed and shifted, and everything that has happened since then has been a continued journey for me to continue to get better and to do things. And you know what? Again, I live my life. I try to live my life. I'll put it this way, without having those moments of again regret.
Mhm.
There's another R word, is regret. So don't allow that, man. That's it. I still have people that I talk to on a regular basis who they're going through that part of their journey, and they see me now and they go, "Wow, you've done all this." It's like, "Yeah, but this isn't." That's the old adage of saying that's the overnight success. That is not overnight success. That is going through it all. And you're probably, if you can't see this for yourself right now, you're probably going through it.
Mhm.
And you'll wake up one day and you'll go, "Where did it all go?" That's the fun part about it. When you realize that, that's like, you made it, my friend. You woke up today. Guess what? You've made it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all that really matters. So I love, again, I can just continue to talk. Do I need to continue to talk?
Okay, okay. So I heard a couple of things. I heard
Okay.
in that story, hope,
Yes.
right? You had hope, and I don't know what you were sitting with and through, or really where your wellness was at that moment that you were laying in your bed.
Yeah.
And I heard you say that you had hope. I also heard that you highlighted that there were challenges. However, um, the stressing are our blessings, is what I like to say, because we stress about so many different things. And there's lots of challenges and difficulties. And at the same time, those are blessings that are coming to us to prepare us for what our future path is. So, what I would love to know if you want to share is
Hmm.
in that moment that you said, okay, this is it. And this is what's happening. And here's where I'm at. And I have to be on a path of my own enlightenment. Where was your wellness at?
Ooh, not in a good place at all. That's why I said I I did not have a lot of things to lean on
Mhm.
except my physical health.
Okay.
Okay. 2018, that also sort of went away from me. I had experienced a moment where um, I had actually fractured my foot in four
Okay.
different places. And I had to go do surgery, had to go do therapy. Um, I mean, I felt at that moment, and for those who don't know, I had been a runner, and breaking and fracturing your foot. I felt that was the end of it all. Like, I
Mm,
wasn't, even the doctor's like, "I don't think you're ever going to be back to 100% to where you can do that comfortably." And I mean, at that point, I really let myself go. I was like, "What's the point?" Like, that was my mindset. I was not in a good place mentally at that point, physically. I, at that point, was even mad at God. Spiritually, I was not in no place. That's why I said everything that you felt you probably could feel wrong. That's what I felt in that time.
okay.
And had I not, like I said, had I not felt like all the walls were coming down, that in that right moment where I was just ready to give in,
Mhm.
that was again what allowed that message to penetrate me in a whole nother level, because I had no, at that point, I had nothing to hold up to say that would filter me, that would say, "Oh, well, it's because of this." It was like, I give up. What else is it? Is this it? Is this every? So at that point, I wasn't even at a point to fight anything. So that's why I said all my walls were down. I was at the most vulnerable moment that I possibly could be. And had
Mhm.
I not had that, I don't think I would have been able to do and become the person that I am without being in that moment. So That was probably the heaviest I ever was in my life. I had again went almost 6 months with like no kind of exercise or anything because I couldn't um, because of the surgery and everything else, and trying to go like I said. So that was probably my lowest point of anything. And like I said, my physical health was the only thing I held on to. And then when that kind of went away, that was like, now what else is there? So my wellness at that point was the worst that it could have been.
Okay.
And that's, that's why I said I didn't I could not put up a fight against anything in that moment because during that time, I didn't want to I just felt like I was ready to give it up. All of it. All of it. Everything. Even coming to the dark point, the dark moments of thinking about doing the ultimate.
Mhm.
Like, is it worth it all? So, yeah, that was hard. But again, those are the things that those are those pinpoint moments that you have to realize that though.
Right.
Like you go back, like I said, I'll never forget that moment. I will never forget what that was. That was a genesis, a rebirth for me. And had I not gone through all of the had I not gone through all the rocky stuff and everything else in that year, and just to say I would have just kept going on. Nobody knows who I am here. I don't have the connections. Any of these people that are connected with me, any of these people that are coming, nobody knows who I am. So without it, again, I'm not this guy. So I'm grateful for it now. You can't, but like I said, in the moment, you don't realize it.
Mhm.
It's after the fact, and that's why I said if you don't feel it now around you, it's probably because you're going through it. So yeah, I was not in a good place future back then. Not at all.
Okay. And here's what I need you to know, and then everybody to know. You don't have to choose to share all this, right? So you are being
Mhm.
extremely vulnerable. You're sharing a piece of you that maybe many people don't see. And also at the same time, I know that maybe many people can relate to or find comfort or can completely understand
Mhm.
because um, the point of being in a very dark place or the point of having no understanding for why you are here and what do I continue on this journey for is a point, like you said, of rebirth. If you want to sit with and sit through that, so it's apparent that you were able to come through, and it's apparent that your wellness was impacted at that time and that you were on a path, and maybe you continue to be on the path of healing, on the path of providing your own wellness to yourself. So in that time frame from that point in 2018 to now, what are different things that you did to be proactive and preventative in regards to your own wellness and health? And I ask this question, one, to celebrate you, because I think we don't do enough of that as human beings. We're so busy collecting our accolades or our titles or all these things. And we are too busy on the hamster wheel, oftentimes of life, to sit there and pause and say, wow, look at all that I have become. Look at all that I am doing. Look at the moments of joy that I have on any given day. My breath that I'm here to share with the world today is a huge blessing and something to celebrate. So, what did you do and what do you want to share with the world that's listening that you think would resonate with them, or that you just don't even think that would resonate with them, but that you want to acknowledge in yourself to celebrate of that path and journey that you were on and came through?
So that when I decided that I needed to change,
Mhm.
I said, "How am I going to do this?" And I said, I took a 3-step approach. These are the 3 things that I went decided I really needed to work on, and in this order: mind, body, and soul. I needed to work on my mind first. So that's where I went. Like I could have tried to work on my physical part about it, but if I hadn't fixed myself up there first, like what that was, I don't think I would have had the mental capacity to even do some of the things that I've done already and that I continue to do. So that was a big part of it is like, how do I go back? And I really started to learn so much about our not only our mental health, but just how our minds function. Like, so I dove deep into understanding so much about the mind and how powerful it is. Like, that is the first thing that I needed to go do. And I started to do all this reading and investigative work and research and just learning how to kind of reprogram my mind. I didn't know what neuroplasticity was back then, but I understand it now. But I needed to know what that was
Right.
because I knew that was going to be the key to me unlocking a lot of things. Is like, how do I go back and sit there and think about like how do I help my greatest asset? That's it. That's the to me, everything else kind of goes along with that. But how could I do that? So
Mhm.
that's where I spent a lot of my time very early on in figuring that out. And that's where I started with. And that's how I went and took that first approach is like, let me do the mind work. Let me do that work. Let me figure like how I can read recalibrate my mind so that I can do all the other things. And then from there, it was then start to actually go back and once I started understanding more about my own mind and my mental health and my own mentality, then I started to change everything else. Then it was like, okay, let's work on our health now. Let's work on our body, Gabe. Let's get back to a point where even though they told you you'll never run the same way you did again, I still went back and said, that's not going to work. And then it was then changing habits of what I was doing, how I was eating, all the other stuff that goes along with that. And that was the next step for me. And then after that, it was like, okay, now I need to nourish my soul. All the other things that go with that, because with those three things to me are what really make us and are part of our, they're part of our DNA and how we exist. You know, every single one of us has these things. We all have a mind, we all have our body, and we all have a soul. And I feel that you have to continuously grow, develop, and nourish them. And you starve one, you start starving the other. Everything, it's a domino effect. So that's where it was for me is like, let me get this first. And then that sort of changed everything. After that, like I said, I could never ever go back again to being that person that was sitting there in that room and sitting in those moments. So and that's not to say you're not gonna have those you're not gonna have small moments again. You
Mhm.
will, but in developing this though, you know how to work yourself out of them. Like you've gone through it. Okay, use the tools again, my friend. You've done the work. How do you do it? Whether it's going through meditation, whether it's breath work, whatever it is to help you start to figure it out again. Go back to those things. Back to those foundational pieces that you do. And that's why, like I always tell people, like, work on that first. Figure out that mindset because you can have a really great. You could health wise, you can be really great, but then you have an external factor like something like, say, quote unquote, stress that you can
Mhm.
still look healthy. You can still, and it can still bring you down. Like I just watched a documentary series, National Geographic did with Chris Hemsworth called Limitless.
Mhm.
Okay, you're talking about a guy who's at peak physical health. I mean, you know who he is. He all the muscles and everything else. It's a stress factor though. And that's what it was talking about, like going through that, what that is. Like that can still bring you down. Like that
Mhm.
can still call you can still be again in a great physical form. I mean, look at the guy. He's in the, doesn't have any almost body fat on him, but yet when they were testing his stress levels, they were off the charts. Like that can kill you. Like that again. So what did he have to go do? He went through the mental part of what it is, learning about flight or flight, learning about all these things to help control that other aspect of it. And that's why I said mind, body, and soul, work them in those sort of ways, and everything else will start to come together. And that's like how I continue to live my life. If I ever start feeling in a moment of where feel like maybe struggling a little bit, I go back and go back to the mind work again, and go back to all this other things that I've gone through, and I will go back and say, okay, if it's maybe it's meditation this time, I'll start it again. Sit down, really try, be quiet, be with myself. Like really take those moments. Like that is how I again sit down and take myself to a whole nother place. And then, you know, a few times of continuously doing this, and all of a sudden, boom, you get a breakthrough, and
Mhm.
it's here. Okay, life is good. What happened? Nothing. Mindset shift. That's all. Like you go through it and you snap out of it, and then all of a sudden here you go. I'm back at it again. So you know, I I've those things would have done me in my past life.
Mhm.
So they don't do that anymore. And then even as I am like doing things now, like my life is shifting, literally shifting so quickly. And but I'm mentally prepared to and capable to deal with it now. I could these factors would have been so they would have been destructive for me back in my pre I want to say pre 2018. That would have been those things would have been like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Like those would have been the things that kept me up at night. Those would have been the things that like figuring out, oh my gosh, those are the things that would have gotten me to a point of again feeling so weak. And
Mhm.
not that weak is a bad thing. It's just, but it would have been to a point of where it could have felt like it was crippling. And I'm not, I'm now in the place where I cannot allow that in my life anymore because I know what it will do. So I go back and I change those things and make them the small little things manageable again. And here we go. We're off and running. Like I don't struggle anymore. Like I don't struggle with that part of it. Now, we all have other struggle, like we sometimes the financial struggles in life. Okay, again, that's a mindset. That's a mindset thing. Sometimes,
Yep.
um, they say that being poor is a mindset, like because you feel that in around you, and if you allow it to be that way, then your relationship with wealth and financial and everything else are going to be a big part of the struggle. Like
Mhm.
so, I look at life in every aspect, and I just see it as for looking at it and what it's worth. It's just another experience at that point. Like I can't let it, I can't let it. I'm not going to let it control me anymore. Never again will that ever happen. Um, so that's why I say we. This is the only R word that I hate, and I said hate. This is the only R word that I hate is being reactive to something.
Mhm.
Because at that point, honestly, you are no longer in control. When you're reacting to something, your means you're so that's why I say, and I like you when you said this word proactive. You're like, how can you be proactive? Like, how can you be proactive and change? Every day you can.
Mhm.
Every day you can be proactive in it. Like, you know, you don't want to die from lung cancer, quit smoking. That's being proactive. You don't want to die from diabetes. change, be proactive, change your eating habits. Those things it's not rocket science. We make it more complicated than it actually has to be. And that to me is where I go back and say being proactive in it. Like there were
Mhm.
people that were proactive. Listen, there were people that were proactively ready for COVID. The rest of the world had to react. There were people that were actually proactive and, that were, again, had already been in a point where they're like, I work from home. I already handle, those people transitioned so quickly. Like the only thing that really shifted to them is like, they learned that there were new conveniences for them. And they were like, what do you mean new conveniences? Well, they could just order stuff from the store and they would deliver it now. I don't even have to go out anymore. Awesome. They were proactively ready for those things. So if you are proactive in your life, you will be ready for those things. Like there's a saying that I always loves hearing it because it says luck favors the prepared.
Mm.
It is true. If you're preparing for it, when that moment of opportunity shows up, you're ready for it.
Mhm.
So I love to be actively proactive in changing my life. Like I don't no longer want to have to be reactive to everything that's going on.
Well,
So that is a big part of how I choose to continue to push forward in my own journey. And I try to help others realize this about themselves as well, because they get to that point. Um, and I know you've probably experienced this too, because you're very much like myself. You have conversations, and sometimes they go offline, but you've had conversations with people, and part of it is that you hear them sharing their life with you, and they're sharing things with you, and you're like, I so wish I could help you, but you have to go through this right now
mhm.
by yourself. I'm sorry. Like it's going to be tough, but there's a reason for it, because
Mhm.
you have to also realize and learn when you pick up that you have that power inside of you to do these other things. But it's only until you realize it. I can sit here and tell you, I could give you the blueprint. I could give you, there's books written about it, 100-page books that'll tell you how to change life, how to change everything. Guess what? They're as useless as you putting it under the table stand, to even out your table stand so that it sits there and makes everything right. Because it's what you take out of it, and it's that for you, that moment has to happen for you. You have to do it. You have to go through it, and that's the thing about it. You can give somebody advice. You can, again, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. You got to, they have to go to that. And
Mhm.
then what you get to do though is wait for them in there. And when they're ready and they realize it, and then they're like, see, you had this all along, my friend. You had this power in you all along. Only you had to realize it, not me. I couldn't do it. My journey is my journey,
Mhm.
and your journey will be yours. And you, again, you're only as powerful as you allow yourself to be. You can only do those things. So that's why, um, I feel like I had to. So that's why, like, even now, even me learning how to go and do my own thing, like people would tell me, Gabe, you can go do this. You can go talk in front of people. I heard it plenty of times.
Mhm.
People had told me plenty of times. I mean, here I mean, literally the future. I was doing it every night in front of a camera, like talking to hundreds of people every night sometimes, and not bat an eye. It was being in front though, like right there in that moment when you're
Mhm.
maybe just sitting around with 10 people around you. Like it would shift this. The mind had to go back and really change that what it was. And once I did it, I was like, is that it? Is that what I was afraid of? It was like, heck no. And like, if they would have allowed me, I probably would have talked for another 30, 45 minutes because it was just that part of getting past the mindset. That's all it was. So but that was my struggle to go through. And now that I've
Mhm.
done it, I think I could do it again over and over and over again, and just like I do now, get better at it. So um that was a again that was big for me in taking down another hurdle and being proactive again. Like, I've said that, and I've shared this story. The whole reason Part of the reason why I wanted to, first of all, get behind a camera or live stream was because at some point I did want to become, and I will become, a motivational speaker. I wanted
Mhm.
to motivate people because of my own journey is like, if I could go through all of that, you can do this. You can get through this. And that was a big part of it. But again, here we were. Here's that word, proactive. Because I had started live streaming and doing everything else before COVID, I was ready for it. I was
Mhm.
proactive, and I was able to go and start doing things and reaching out to people and having these conversations and doing this and developing a whole nother skill set that I didn't know that I had, but it was magical. It was because I was prepared. I already owned the camera. I already had the microphone. I already had all these other things that most people were afterwards having to catch up and figure out how to do. Like, I was already there. So, um, being again proactive in what I wanted to do, and realizing that I wanted to be a motivational speaker and doing these things, that's kind of what led me into doing it. And live streaming just became um, sort of at that point back then, it was a tool to use it to kind of practice. It became became a lot more, but that's what the initial thing was for it. Was That's why, like, I needed to start doing it so that when I felt like I could be in front of a camera, I mean, be in front of people with a microphone and on a stage and talk. Um, so that was big in how I got started, and it's why I continue to evolve and do this. I mean, um, that's like the next evolution for me in 2023. So don't worry, my mom's walking in my place, so don't worry.
Hi, Mom.
she's there. Yeah, she's here.
Okay, so here's what I heard from you, a couple things.
Okay.
Mindset matters,
Yes.
okay? Um, 2, on top of mindset, the second thing that I would say that you said is neuroplasticity.
Hmm.
We can literally, it has been proven that we could rewire our brain and the neural pathways in which we were once going, but that is going to take some work on part of any human being. And what I also am assuming that you used meditation to help you
Hmm.
do that, while also another tool that you have is your breath in moments of time where you're sitting with and through maybe those uncomfortable emotions or unease that you have that to go through to say, no, this is the path, this is my purpose, and I will continue to de stress yourself. So I am hearing you, and you've done a lot of wonderful work to help you and have your wellness back. The curiosity that I have is a while ago, you were off. You said, I need to take some time offline for a little bit.
Hmm.
And it was past 2018. It was more recently, I'd say within the last
Mm.
year, year and a half.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you said, I have all these tools, and I too have to be proactive in moments to say, I need a pause and I need a break.
Oh, yes. That is, you know, I'm wrapping up. I'm going to wrap up 2023. This was another byproduct that I had to learn, is
Okay.
that I didn't like, when I started live streaming, I didn't know that you could go too quick, too fast, and burn out. Like,
Mhm.
I had never actually experienced that. So I, at the end of when I started doing this in 2020, like, I knew I ran to a point of where I was out of gas. I was like, I didn't, I didn't know if I could. continue to go on. So part of me learned that lesson that you do have to put those intermittent breaks in your life sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's like where, like, even now people are like, how are you going to, how are you doing 100 episodes in this short amount of time? Is because I also know that I put a begin point and an end point on it.
Mhm.
And at that end point, then I disconnect. Like, I got other things I know that I'm going to walk away from and reshift, reevaluate my and recenter my focus on doing other things at that point. But I also know that I'm also going to hit the brakes and slow down and stop for a little while and have some Gabe time, like
Mhm.
me time. Like before even before I started the launch and doing the show, there was I took a three, let's see, 3.5 month, almost 4 month break from the last time I was doing my last, then when I ended season three. And I spent a lot of that time with me, like running and exercising and like even watching other people's shows. I'm like, wow, I don't have to do that. I can watch.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Just talking with my mom. He's right there. But yeah, that was a big one for me in like understanding what that is. So uh, I know that I have to put these mental stops in life and again go back and look at things and re-energize myself so that when I do come back, I'm ready. Like and understand that. So like I actually now integrate them um, purposefully. The first
Mhm.
time it happened, it wasn't, it was unintentional. I learned that I needed to, but then after that, it was like, okay, you're going to need breaks. So you take on a lot and you put a lot on your plate, but then you also have to take that time off to kind of reset yourself. So
Mhm.
that's what's going to happen for me at the end of 2022.
Okay.
My last show will be December 30th, 2022. And then after that, I'm going to take 3 to 4 months off. Like,
Okay.
you might not hear from me. You might. Yeah, who knows? I might just say I'm unplugging. I might show up here or there, but I won't, you know, you're not going to see me on a regular thing. And that's okay. I
Mhm.
understand that now. Like I felt the first time that I did, I was like, oh my God, what am I, all these people and everything else. And no, screw that. You do you, Gabe. You fix you. You take your time for you. And then you'll be able to help everybody else.
Mhm. Okay, so I think another nugget that you're giving to people is know you well enough to know when you need to press pause to rest so you don't react.
Yes.
Know you well enough so you could press pause, rest so you don't react. So again, you are preventative in saying, "I'm gonna stop for 3 or 4 months coming up because I'm doing shows daily, and I've put a lot of time and effort into it, and I too am worthy of rest," which I think is a wonderful thing. Now, before we go, because I know we're at time, one of the things that I wanna highlight and have you highlight is you want and will be open to taking engagements for speaking, motivational speaking.
Yes.
And would you like to share with everyone who is out there that are maybe looking for speakers for their organizations and institutions a few things that you come in to speak about?
Yes. So, one of the things that I've always wanted to talk about and help people is teaching them to learn and understand their inner voice and like how to actually channel that into something really great. We all have that. Like we all have this capacity to do this. And for a lot of people, it's like you have to, they have to move a lot of things out of the way. And I love to help them strategize that and teach them like where that voice is and then how to amplify it. Almost like to teach you how to grab the biggest megaphone that you can and start sharing what you add to this world. Like that is what for me I love doing more than anything is like helping people find that inside of them because once they do, it is a marvel to watch.
Mhm.
It is fun to just sit back and witness it happen. And especially if you're one of the conduits that helps somebody do that, that's even better. It's like the magic. It's its own gift to you. Is
Mhm.
being able to see that and go, that that's purpose. That's me. That's part of the motivation. Is that now that individual is going to go help 1, 2, 10, 20, 100 other people. And that's all that is for me, is to do that because of my moment and then wanting to do that. So I want to help others do that for themselves. And that is a big part of why I want to become a motivational speaker, is to help figure that out for somebody. Because a lot of people, they don't quite understand what that is for them yet. And I
Right.
want to help guide them into doing that. So that is where I want to focus on what I get to do as a speaker and in teaching people how to do that. Because again, pre 2018, I had no voice, I had nothing. And yet here I am now, and people are like, "You're so good at it." Yeah, I am. I'm not gonna that's my humble brag. I am good at this, but it took time, and I will teach you how to do it because you can too.
Mhm.
Trust me. You have the capability to do this. It's just like walking you through what that is for you. So that is a big part of what I want to start going out and talking about. And of course, using other tools like social media, especially here on LinkedIn, on how to do that.
Okay.
So those are the two things that I'm going to concentrate on as far as like speaking and teaching people what that is for them and how to amplify themselves on any kind of social media platform. So that is my goal for 2023 in moving forward. So getting that done, and then the book. I'm writing the book. This just so you can just see. This is the laptop that I'm writing it on. This laptop actually holds like 2 or 3 books, but
Okay.
um, doing the book on my journey and then what this was, and like growing that out. So those are things for me in 2023, moving forward. But yeah, that is how I want to help people. So if you want me to come talk, I will help you figure out what that is for you, and then we will concentrate on how to help you grow and build your own singular voice, my friend. That is my journey.
And
So
you
there you go.
do are you open to virtual and in person?
Yes. So I've
Okay.
done both virtual and in person. So you want me to do virtual? We'll do virtual. That, pretty masterful at that. If you want me to do it in
Okay.
person, I'll come do it as well. And I will become masterful at that.
Okay. All right. So it's good for people to know, right? If
Yes.
people are in the community, obviously LinkedIn is a beautiful place where we build community and we're here to build community and help support other people. So there might be somebody listening that has an idea or knows somebody that is looking for a motivational speaker or needs to be motivated themselves. And that is you.
Yes. 100%. Please do.
Okay.
Reach out to me. I am on LinkedIn every single day, every single night. If you want to know, Monday through Friday, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. You can go check out the Unfiltered live show. You can connect with me here on LinkedIn, of course, and across any other social media platform. If you want to learn about who I am, what I can do, and how I can help you. So there you go. Miss Kane, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody who's been tuning in as well. And yes, I am going to tell you guys, come check me out tonight, this evening. I will be going live here in a little over an hour and 15 minutes with my guest, Mr. Shane Salantieri. And if you want to go check out the Unfiltered live show, please do. Other than that, that's all I really have to share.
Okay. We'll put the link in. Maybe we'll put the link to the event for your event tonight. And
Yes.
then as we log off, because our time is coming to an end, what is one thing that you want to say to the audience about their own wellness and about purpose?
So the thing about purpose is this. Um, if you don't know what that is yet, um, if you don't know exactly what that purpose is for you, it's okay to not know what it is. But what's not okay is that if you're not looking for it. So that, purpose is just one of those things that we need to actually find in our life. So that is one thing. And then your wellness is pretty simple. Like if you don't feel like you're um at your maximum, if you don't feel like you have achieved, or you don't feel like if everything around you doesn't feel right, you know, again, sit down, take a few moments and realize what that is. Like,
Mhm.
people need to realize that just because you have even money or physical health, that's not everything. There are people that have fame, fortune, all of this, and yet they still end their lives so early, or they do things that in their lives. And that is, that's one of the things about understanding purpose and your wellness, and how both of those things can help coincide. So there you go. That's what I want to share with everybody who might be watching.
Okay. So I so appreciate you. I'm sending you hugs and love. And we'll talk more off screen, but if you are looking to hear more about Gabe, if you're not currently following him, I suggest you do so. He is a wealth of knowledge. And as he said, his goals for this upcoming year are speaking and the book. He is going to be offline and not on every single day starting December 30th. So please be mindful of that when you do reach out to him.
Yes,
for his
absolutely.
own wellness, right? He has to pour into him too, and he's learned that the easy and hard way.
Yeah. So there you go. Other than that, uh, I'm gonna run because I got to go talk to my mom real quick. But other than that, thank you guys, and I will see you here in just over an hour.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys. Love you
Okay,
all.
love you.